Unrelenting and deadly heat wave triggering nearly 24 wildfires. This time-lapse video in Arizona, you can see it there. And in Texas this weekend, 2 more children losing their lives in hot cars.
Tonight, the heat wave now deadly as at least 21 large wildfires rage across 8 states. Right now, this brush fire near Los Angeles scorching 100 acres and growing quickly.
You never know what a fire's going to do.
In southern Utah, this blaze scorching more than 60 square miles, forcing at least 700 people out of their homes.
We were able to go in and get the things that we needed to.
More than a dozen homes already destroyed, and firefighters dousing the flames from above.
We're dealing with just absolutely unprecedented fire behavior.
Roaring wildfires in Arizona prompting a state of emergency. This area northeast of Tucson now ravaged by fire for more than 2 weeks.
We want people to know to be ready and to get out.
All of this unfolding in the middle of a blistering stretch of heat. The sweltering weather now blamed in at least 4 deaths this weekend, including 2 toddlers. One found dead inside his father's car in Houston. Soaring temperatures triggering power outages and hundreds of flight delays this week.
Major forest fires in southern Spain have driven more than 1,500 people from their homes, campsites, and hotels. The blaze was spotted on Saturday night in the Moguer region in the southern province of Huelva. On Sunday, 11 planes, 10 helicopters, and dozens of land vehicles were deployed against the flames. But adverse windy conditions made it difficult to predict. The area has been on high alert because of a heat wave. Last week, 64 people died in a forest fire in neighboring Portugal.
Torrential rain has battered provinces of Jiangxi, Guizhou and Zhejiang in southern China, affecting hundreds of thousands of people and causing heavy economic losses. The northern part of Jiangxi was pounded early on Saturday morning. 4 people were buried under a collapsed house after a landslide. In Guizhou, over 800,000 people were affected after heavy rain hit on Thursday. So far, more than 50 counties in Guizhou have been soaked. Zhejiang is suffering from its heaviest flood in 60 years. Rescuers are helping residents evacuate.
It's the biggest natural disaster in the area since a magnitude 8 earthquake struck 9 years ago. 3,000 people have been involved in the search and rescue operation. Excavators were brought in to move large boulders, earth and mud. But on Monday morning, the local government ordered everyone to leave the area, citing safety concerns. The mountain that collapsed on Saturday is now bare, with loose rocks and earth, and officials fear there could be a second landslip. The search operation has been suspended, but some teams are pulling out completely.
We started searching almost immediately, but sadly, even though we detected 2 signs of life, by the time we removed the rocks, we found only 2 bodies.
So what's going on right now in Syria is the maneuvering. The Iranians want to inherit the territory that's going to be lost by ISIS. They showed that by launching rockets today over Iraq into Syria, ostensibly at ISIS as retaliation for the terror attacks, but really a demonstration to Saudi Arabia, the Sunni Arabs, and everybody in the region of their reach. The Iranian objective is to inherit the territory of ISIS, which gives them control of the entire northern part of the Middle East, from Iran through Iraq, through Syria to the Mediterranean. The Persians have not had that in 2,000 years, and it is within their grasp. So the Russians, the Iranians, the Syrian regime are all on one side, and the maneuver is to make sure they get the territory that ISIS loses. Our interest is to make sure that doesn't happen.
Once ISIS is defeated, and it will be defeated, the only question is when. It should be sooner rather than later. But once it's defeated, it will leave a power vacuum, and Iran and the Assad regime and Russia and Hezbollah will move to try and fill it.
أنه إذا شن حربا إسرائيلية على سوريا وعلى لبنان مش معلوم القتال يبقى لبناني إسرائيلي أو سوري. تفتح الأجواء لعشرات آلاف بل مئات آلاف المجاهدين والمقاتلين من كل أنحاء العالم العربي والإسلامي.
The terror leader's words raise red flags for a few reasons. The main ones being that Hezbollah indeed has many fighters active in the Syrian civil war where they've been fighting for the Assad regime. The second is because Iran just gave the terrorist group around $70 million to pay salaries, as well as weapons that reportedly can hit anywhere in Israel, with more of both promised to be on the way.
Israel's Prime Minister says the country will not tolerate any attack on its territory. Benjamin Netanyahu made the announcement on Sunday. He also pledged harsh retaliation a day after the Israeli Air Force responded to stray rocket fire which hit part of its territory.
Our policy is clear. We will not tolerate any spillover of any kind, not mortars, not rockets, or any fire trickle from any front. We will respond strongly to any attack on our territory or our citizens.
The leader of Iran's Islamic Revolution says all Muslims have a duty to fight the Israeli regime. Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei made the comment in a meeting with ambassadors of Islamic countries, as well as a host of local officials and people from different walks of life. He said that Palestine is the most pressing issue facing the Muslim world. The leader said some Islamic states act in such a way to have the issue of Palestine slip into oblivion. Ayatollah Khamenei stressed that forgetting this concern will amount to a, quote, great danger. Ayatollah Khamenei further underscored that discord is the main problem that the Muslim world is facing. He said that the enemy seeks to fuel differences among Islamic nations, urging Muslims to remain united.
Now, Israeli jets have carried out several airstrikes on targets across the Gaza Strip. The Israeli warplanes struck positions of Qassam brigades in the center and Badr center in west of Gaza Strip. The jets also hit locations in Khan Yunis and Rafah in south of the Gaza Strip. The Israeli army claims the air raids are in response to a rocket fired from Gaza late Monday that caused no casualties.
Overseas, ISIS is losing badly on two fronts. Iraq's army may be just days from retaking all of Mosul. And in Syria, U.S.-backed forces have moved into Raqqa, which ISIS considers its capital. Holly Williams is the first network correspondent to report from inside Raqqa City.
We walked into Raqqa, for 3 years an ISIS stronghold, now pummeled by US airstrikes and nearly surrounded by America's allies on the ground. A ragtag army known as the Syrian Democratic Forces. The extremists are losing territory quickly, sometimes leaving their weapons behind. And even now that Raqqa's under siege, ISIS is still deadly. When part of our team moved forward, they were spotted by an ISIS sniper. Our producer, Omar Abdul Qadir, had no choice but to make a run for cover.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Well done.
They were safe, but pinned down behind a concrete wall.
It's either the armoured car or darkness before we move.
We can't move from street to street because of their snipers, said Zana Kabani, who told us he's been fighting ISIS for 4 years. And then came word there was a suspected ISIS suicide car bomber nearby.
They're worried that a suicide car bomber is coming towards the point where we were just sitting. So they've asked us to move over here to take cover.
It turned out to be a false alarm, and minutes later this homemade armoured car arrived, known as the Scorpion. It drew another barrage of ISIS gunfire before ferrying our team to safety. Even faced with inevitable defeat, ISIS showed us they're determined to wreak more death in this shattered city.
This is how the US responded last time the Syrian government carried out a major chemical weapons attack on its people. 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from the USS Porter, hitting regime air bases in Homs. Now the White House is warning that if another such attack goes ahead, Bashar al-Assad's regime will pay, quote, a heavy price. With President Trump's administration suggesting it is willing to carry out a second targeted strike inside Syria, the United Kingdom said it too would consider military action.
We fully supported the last strike that took out the aeroplanes, and if the United States is considering a similar strike, then we'll support that too. And I'm discussing all this with the American Defense Secretary at our next meeting in Brussels on Thursday.
Any US-led intervention in Syria risks direct confrontation with Russia, a firm backer of Assad's regime.
Albeit not a complete victory for Mr. Trump, who is seeking to place a 90-day ban on people from 6 mainly Muslim nations and a 120-day ban on refugees. He has repeated that it was needed to block terrorists. But federal district courts had temporarily blocked the executive order, a revised version of which was signed in March, and an appeals court upheld the suspension. They said it violated federal immigration law and was discriminatory against Muslims.
He says, as president, I cannot allow people into our country who want to do us harm. The ruling allows me to use an important tool for protecting our nation's homeland. The court order does allow travelers with a credible claim of a relationship with a person in the U.S. to come into the country.
The director of the U.S. spy agency says the country's national security is threatened by Iran, which he describes as the world's largest supporter of terrorism. CIA Director Mike Pompeo said that Tehran has gained enormous influence in recent years, stressing that its influence far outstrips where it was just 6 or 7 years ago. He pointed to close cooperation between Iran, Iraq, and Syria, which are fighting against foreign-backed terrorist groups, including Daesh. The CIA director said that, quote, Iran is now everywhere throughout the Middle East, adding that such influence makes the Islamic Republic a threat to U.S. national security.
Our minister has visited a U.S. Army unit for the occasion and thanked the U.S. forces for their efforts in the war. But Kang pointed to the North's rapidly growing nuclear program, which threatens both countries, and said that threat must be confronted for the Allies to move forward seeking prosperity.
Thus, the ROK-US alliance stands at a critical juncture to address this existential threat from North Korea. But I am confident that we can together overcome it. With our ironclad, rock-solid alliance and combined defense posture, we can achieve our common goal.
The main purpose of Kang's visit was reportedly to highlight the two countries' strong alliance ahead of the first face-to-face meeting of Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump in Washington, which will set the tone of the two countries' relations for the years to come.
Our two leaders will discuss joint strategy on furthering our comprehensive strategic alliance. They will also be drawing big pictures on how best to address the North Korean nuclear and missile threat.
North Korea has test-fired 5 ballistic missiles since President Moon took office, adding to concerns that Pyongyang is on a fast track to developing an ICBM that can target the U.S. mainland. But despite Pyongyang's growing nuclear ambitions, Minister Kang's visit to the division reaffirmed the two allies' commitment to, quote, go together, just like the motto of U.S. forces in South Korea.
His remarks come as the regime has conducted more than 10 missile tests since President Trump took office in January. India has diplomatic ties with North Korea, but has joined the international community in condemning Pyongyang for its provocations.
U.S. forces in South Korea have deployed a number of sophisticated long-range cruise missiles capable of striking deep into North Korean territory. According to multiple sources, more than 10 joint air-to-surface standoff missiles are currently in storage at Gunsan Air Base, some 180 kilometers south of Seoul. The missile, also called JASSM, can be carried by U.S. F-16 fighter jets based in South Korea and has a range of more than 370 kilometers. The deployment is being interpreted as a show of force against North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats.
J アラートを通じて屋外スピーカーなどから国民保護サイレンと緊急情報が流れます。屋外では頑丈な建物や地下に避難を。近くに建物がなければ物陰に身を隠すか地面に伏せて頭部を守る。屋内では窓から離れるか窓のない部屋に移動を。お問い合わせは内閣官房消防庁または
Bombs are rare in the country.
Ukraine's defense ministry has confirmed the identity of the victim as Colonel Maxim Shapoval, a senior military intelligence officer who had recently returned from eastern Ukraine, where Russian-backed separatists are still fighting with the Ukrainian army. The authorities say that they are treating this attack as terrorism. Often in these cases, the Ukrainian authorities tend to have Russian agents as the prime suspects, but really we can only speculate on what might be the motive for this murder or who might be behind it. Certainly it was a premeditated killing, an assassination. As a senior military intelligence officer, one might imagine that Maxim Shapoval knew some things that might have been inconvenient for somebody who might have wanted to eliminate him, but as I say, we can only speculate at this stage.
Tonight, what may be the first account of the collision that claimed 7 American lives, attributed to the captain of the cargo ship that struck it. Reuters reporting the skipper told the ship's owners he flashed lights to signal the USS Fitzgerald before the crash, and that the destroyer failed to take evasive action, suddenly veering into the ship's path.
Anytime there is a collision at sea, there is gross professional negligence involved. Two ships are not supposed to hit each other, and if both ships follow the rules the way they are supposed to be followed, they simply will not impact each other.
Italy is having to fork out up to 17 billion taxpayer euros to wind down 2 failed banks there. Now, we asked people whether they're ready to bail out more of the bankers.
This is money that's being taken from our pockets. Why should we have to worry about saving the failing banks? There are so many other priorities. Hospitals, schools, and small businesses are in crisis. If politicians want to help the Italian economy, they should start with the middle class, not saving the banks. We've had enough.
No. It's not right. The banks do not deserve to be given this money. The people who made the banks fail should be held responsible.
I am very angry about this situation. I work hard to earn money. We can't go on like this.
It's completely immoral. We're all angry because we keep being forced to pay. Bank managers should take responsibility for these failures, not small-time savers like me.
Truth Unveiled here, and today we're going to be going over some major stuff. As of November 19th of 2016, and I've taken a screenshot from Stellarium, you see that the King Star that represents the Messiah enters the Virgin constellation Virgo and enters the womb and pretty much stays there for about, 9.5 months. And then if you take a look at September 9th of 2017, the J-Star or the King Star, which represents the Messiah, Yahusha, being in the Virgin constellation, you see that it travels in the womb from this point here for a period of 9 months from here all the way to down here, and then soon exits the womb exactly 2 weeks before the 923 sign. And if you calculate these two dates and the time frame between them, you get a period of about 42 weeks, which is the same period as of a pregnancy period, the birthing of a nation, birth pains. Is it starting to make sense now? And how close we really are to judgment indeed? Now, of course, precipitating all of that is the CERN Awake collaboration meeting that will be taking place from the 18th through the 20th of September of 2017. And right after that is the UN International Day of Peace, as they call it, which will be observed on September 21st. And this theme for 2017, as they call it, is, quote, "Together for Peace, Respect, Safety, and Dignity for All." And when they say peace and safety, then comes sudden destruction, as travail upon a woman. And of course, the United Nations is continuously pushing their propaganda of unity and togetherness. Here we go again, the one world order, new world order, and the one world government, trying to bring everyone together regardless of religion and all these things, just as the Pope is doing. And we'll be talking more about that too, because they say, quote, "In times of insecurity, communities that look different become convenient scapegoats. We must resist cynical efforts to divide communities and portray neighbors as, quote, the other." And then it says it will focus on engaging and mobilizing people throughout the world to show support for refugees and migrants. We see the agenda indeed. It will highlight solidarity with refugees and migrants and showcase the shared benefits of migration to economies and nations. But also it says too that on the September 15th of 2017, the Secretary General will celebrate the day in the Peace Garden at UN headquarters by ringing the bell and observing a minute of silence. And after that, we have the autumn equinox, which will be on September 22nd, 2017, which will be the first official start of fall. And we know that this is a very prophetic time indeed, because what happens in the fall too? We have the fall feast. We have trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles. And we know that our Messiah, Yahusha, he came to fulfill the spring ones already. These ones have already been fulfilled, with Pentecost being fulfilled in Acts chapter 2, with the pouring out of the Ruach HaKodesh, or what's commonly known as the Holy Spirit in Acts chapter 2. But the only ones that have yet to be fulfilled are trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles. Trumpets, of course, representing the final trumpet being blown, atonement representing, of course, deliverance and judgment to come, and tabernacles representing the tabernacling with Yahusha, because Yahusha will tabernacle, dwell with us. So we know that this is a very prophetic time indeed, and these feasts have yet to be fulfilled. Am I saying anything big will happen on or around these feasts? We know what they represent, but we also know that we do not know the day or hour, but we sure do know the season, especially with the prophetic events and the signs in the sky. And then, of course, right on September 23rd, 2017, the very first day of fall that it will start on will be the 9/23/2017 sign, which is, in fact, the prophetic Revelation 12 sign, with the woman being clothed with the sun and the moon underneath her feet, as you can see right here, according to Stellarium. And above her, 12 stars above her head, or 12 crowns. And of course, the 12 stars that are over her head represents right here in the constellation Leo, the lion of the tribe of Yehuda or Judah. And you can see right here on this particular date, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stars right here as normal. But then we have these 3 right here for a total of 12 stars. And there are many who are trying to say, oh, well, this is fake, and oh, this is a fake prophecy. I'm telling you, this is some real stuff indeed. It's time to wake up and see exactly what's right in front of you, not to mention the star alignment and how they all align perfectly. And of course, while none of us knows the day or hour, we definitely know the season indeed. And now more than ever, we need to be watchful and alert and awake to the world around us, and continue to seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha for protection, because we know we do not have to worry whatsoever, but find protection in Yahuwah and Yahusha. But